Welcome back to Sweet Family Revenge. Today's story comes from Kevin West, 72, a retired school principal from Indianapolis, Indiana, who reached out to share his experience. His son's wife yelled, "Him again! I told you I don't want this old man here," loud enough for the whole street to hear. Kevin walked in anyway. But what he did on Monday changed everything. 72 years on this earth, and the most clarifying moment of my recent life happened on a front porch in Fishers, Indiana, at 11:45 on a Sunday morning. My name is Kevin West. I spent 31 years as an educator, 22 as a classroom teacher, 9 as a principal at North Central High School in Indianapolis. I have managed rooms full of teenagers who believed the rules didn't apply to them. I have delivered difficult news to parents, to school boards, to teachers who needed to hear things they didn't want to hear. I have, in other words, spent the better part of my professional life in situations where maintaining dignity under pressure was not optional. It was the job. I tell you this because what happened on that Sunday required every skill I'd spent 31 years developing. And the reason it required those skills is that the person I was dealing with was not a difficult teenager or a defensive parent. She was my daughter-in-law. And she was loud enough that the neighbor walking a dog across the street looked up. Sunday, October 12th, 11:45 a.m. I had been invited to Sunday lunch at my son Aaron's house on Maple Crossing Drive in Fishers, a suburb northeast of Indianapolis that has the clean, planned quality of a neighborhood built in the last 20 years for people who wanted space and quiet and good school districts. Aaron and Brianna had lived there for 6 years. I had been to that house for holidays, for birthdays, for the occasional Sunday lunch when Aaron called and asked if I wanted to come by. Aaron had called me Thursday. "Dad, we're doing lunch Sunday. Nothing big, just family. Come around noon." I had said, of course. I had told Ralph Stanton about it on Friday when we had coffee at the Broad Ripple Cafe we'd been going to for 12 years. Told him I was going to Aaron's Sunday, looking forward to it. Ralph had smiled and said give Aaron his regards. I drove the 40 minutes from Meridian Kessler to Fishers with a container of the peach cobbler I make every autumn. Margaret's recipe, the one Aaron has asked for at every family gathering since he was old enough to ask for things. I parked in the driveway at 11:43, gathered the cobbler and walked up the front path. The front door was not fully closed. There was a gap, not a crack, a genuine gap, the kind that happens when someone pulls a door without checking the latch. Through that gap I could hear voices inside. Brianna's voice, specifically, at a volume that suggested she was in the front room rather than the kitchen. I was 3 steps from the door when I heard her. "Him again? Are you serious right now? I have told you, I don't want that old man coming over here every 5 minutes like he lives here. This is our house, Aaron. Our house." I stopped. I stood on the front path of my son's house with a container of peach cobbler in my hands and listened to my daughter-in-law say the word old man about me in her own front room while the neighbor across the street walked a dog, and the Fishers. Sunday morning went on around me as if nothing unusual was happening. Aaron's voice, quieter, the particular quiet of a man trying to manage a temperature in a room. "Bree, he's my dad. I invited him. It's lunch. It's always lunch. It's always something. And you never ask me. You never once ask me if I want company or if I'm in the mood or if I have things I need to do today. You just invite him and tell me after. I told you Wednesday. You mentioned it. That's not asking." 3 seconds. I stood on the path for 3 seconds. Then I walked to the door, knocked twice on the frame, loud enough to be heard, clear enough to signal arrival, pushed it open, and stepped inside with a smile and the peach cobbler. "Aaron, good to see you. Something smells good in here." The particular skill required in that moment is one I learned not from 31 years of education, but from 9 years of watching a woman manage a household, a career, and a family with the specific grace of someone who understood that dignity is a choice you make before the other person can take it from you. Margaret would have walked in exactly the same way. Brianna was in the front room when I entered. She had the expression of a woman who knew she'd been heard and was now calculating whether I'd react to it. The expression people wear when they're deciding whether to address the thing that just happened or to perform normalcy and pretend it didn't. I gave her normalcy, not because I was afraid or because I didn't have a response, but because confronting her in that moment, in Aaron's living room on a Sunday morning, was not going to accomplish anything except making Aaron's lunch miserable. and giving Brianna the dramatic scene she seemed to be in the habit of generating. The long game, Kevin, I thought. Margaret always said the long game. Brianna, I said with the same warmth I'd use for any person I was greeting. Good to see you. I brought the peach cobbler Aaron mentioned last month. He'd been thinking about it. She said hello. The clipped, managed hello of a woman who has been caught mid-performance and is recalibrating. Aaron hugged me with the specific relief of a man whose afternoon had been significantly improved by the arrival of someone else to talk to. Cheryl arrived 20 minutes later. My daughter, 46, who drove up from her house in Carmel for the lunch. She brought wine and the particular energy of a woman who reads rooms quickly and does not miss what's in them. She caught me in the kitchen while Aaron and Brianna were in the other room. Dad. Quiet. Direct. How are you? Fine, sweetheart. You sure? I looked at my daughter, 46 years old, Margaret's eyes. I heard her from the path. I said quietly. Cheryl was very still for a moment. Dad, we're going to have lunch. The cobbler is good this year, and I'm going to be fine. I handed her the serving spoon. Monday is Monday. Today is today. She looked at me with the specific expression Margaret used to wear when she understood I'd already made a decision and was simply waiting for the moment to execute it. Okay, she said. But Dad, you're going to tell me what Monday means? Monday means I made some calls, I said. That's all. The lunch was pleasant in the way that lunches are pleasant when everyone in the room is performing pleasant with varying degrees of effort. Aaron was genuinely warm. He always is, my son. He has the quality of a man who loves his family and is caught between the versions of that love when they conflict. Brianna was composed in the managed way of a woman who has decided the best approach is to act as though nothing happened on the front path. The cobbler was good. Aaron had 2 pieces and told me 3 times that nobody made it like his mother used to. I told him that was because it was his mother's recipe, and he laughed the real laugh, the unguarded one, that he's had since he was 7 years old. I drove home to Meridian Kessler at 3 p.m., sat in the kitchen of the house on North Illinois Street, where Margaret and I had lived for 26 years. The kitchen she'd designed, the window she'd always kept a plant in. Still a plant there, I maintain it, because the window needs something living in it. I picked up the phone and called Ralph. How was lunch? He asked. Educational, I said. Kevin. She yelled it from inside the house, Ralph, loud enough for me to hear it from the path. Old man. That's the phrase she used. A long pause. Ralph Stanton has known me for 40 years, and the thing about a 40-year friendship is that the silences are as readable as the words. What are you going to do? I'm going to give it tonight, I said. And Monday morning I'm making some calls. What kind of calls? The kind that reorganize things. I said, quietly, permanently, without drama. I didn't know it yet. Didn't know what Aaron was going to say when he found out. Didn't know what Brianna was going to do when she understood the shape of what had changed. Didn't know that Cheryl's phone call Monday morning was going to add a dimension to the situation I hadn't fully anticipated. I just knew that a woman had called me an old man on my son's front path, and that Monday was coming. If you've been listening for a while and want stories like this to keep coming, it really helps when you hit that like button and subscribe. 97% of people never do, but it's what keeps this whole thing running. So thank you, for real. Sunday evening, I sat at the kitchen table with a yellow legal pad and wrote down everything I intended to do Monday. Not in anger. I want to be clear about that. The anger had been present briefly on the front path. By the time I got home, it had processed into something quieter and more functional. Margaret used to say that the difference between a reaction and a decision is about 45 minutes in a glass of water. She was right about most things. I had my 45 minutes. I had my water. And by Sunday evening, I had a very clear, very organized list. Some people yell, I thought, looking at the list. Some people argue. Some people make scenes on front porches. I make lists, and then I execute them. The specific power of a quiet decision is that nobody sees it coming. Loud decisions announce themselves. They give people time to prepare, to counter, to manage. Quiet decisions are already done by the time anyone realizes they were made. Monday arrived with the particular cool clarity of an Indianapolis October morning, the kind of day that is honest about what season it is without any of the drama of November. I was up at 6, made coffee, sat at the kitchen table with the legal pad from Sunday evening. Then I started making calls. Monday, October 13th, 8 a.m. First call. Donna Fisk. My attorney, not a family law specialist specifically, but a general practitioner who had handled my estate documents and the house affairs since Margaret died 5 years ago, and who has the quality of thinking 3 steps ahead before she says anything. She answered on the second ring. Kevin, what can I do for you? I need to update some documents, I said. Estate related. I want to come in this week. I can do Wednesday at 10. Can you give me a general sense of what we're updating? Beneficiary designations on the investment accounts, the annual gifting arrangement with Aaron. I paused. And I want to review the standing access I have on his joint account from when Margaret was in the hospital. I want to make sure that's formally removed from my end. A brief pause. Kevin, is everything okay? Everything is fine, Donna. I'm just doing some housekeeping. I picked up the coffee, the kind of housekeeping that's overdue. Wednesday at 10. She confirmed. Second call. Cheryl. She answered before the first ring finished. Dad, I've been waiting for this call since yesterday. I know. What did you decide? I'm cutting communication with Brianna, I said. Not dramatically, no speech, no confrontation, no family announcement. I'm simply going to stop initiating contact with her and stop responding to anything that comes through her. Aaron is Aaron, he's my son, and that doesn't change. But Brianna called me an old man on a public path at my son's house, and I'm 68 years past the point of managing people who don't think I deserve basic courtesy. 72, Cheryl said. What? You're 72, Dad, not 68. I almost smiled. Thank you for the correction. Dad. Her voice shifted from the dry to the direct. There's something I need to tell you. I didn't tell you yesterday because it wasn't the right time and because I wasn't sure how to say it. Tell me now. A pause. I've been hearing things from Pete Calloway, Aaron's friend from work. Pete and I we've had coffee a few times. He's a decent man, and he mentioned some things about Aaron and Brianna's dynamic, about how she talks about you when Aaron isn't in the room. How does she talk about me? Like you're a problem to be managed. Cheryl's voice was careful but clear. Like the goal is to reduce your presence in their lives until it's minimal. Pete said she told Aaron last month that you showing up all the time was making it impossible for them to build their own family identity. I sat with that for a moment. The kitchen, the plant in the window, the October light. Build their own family identity. A phrase that, decoded, means your father is in the way. How long has this been going on? I asked. Pete thinks at least 2 years, maybe longer. A pause. Dad. I'm sorry, I should have said something sooner. You're saying it now, I said. That's what matters. Third call. Aaron. I want to be precise about this call, because it is the call that required the most from me. Aaron is my son, 44 years old, the boy I taught to drive in a parking lot in Broad Ripple, the man who stood at Margaret's graveside and held my arm when my legs weren't fully reliable, the man who invited me to lunch on Sunday in good faith, and spent that lunch managing the temperature between his wife and his father, with the particular exhaustion of a person doing it regularly. He answered at 9:15. Dad. Hey. Aaron. Good morning. Good lunch yesterday. Kabbalah was incredible. Thank you. I paused. Aaron, I need to tell you something and I need you to hear it as clearly as I mean it. The line went slightly quieter. Okay. I heard Brianna when I came to the door yesterday. All of it. The whole thing. From the path. The specific silence of a man who hoped something hadn't happened and is now learning it did. Dad, I'm not calling to make it an argument. I'm not calling to tell you what to do about your marriage. That's your life. I kept my voice steady, the voice I used for 31 years in difficult conversations. I'm calling to tell you that going forward, I'm going to limit my direct communication with Brianna. Not out of anger, out of self-respect. Dad, she was having a rough morning. She didn't mean, Aaron. Gently. A rough morning doesn't put those words in a person's mouth. Those words were already there. I'm not going to pretend I didn't hear them. A long pause. What does this mean for Sundays, for holidays? It means I'll come when you invite me, and I'll be glad to see you. It means I'll call you and you can call me. It means our relationship doesn't change because I love you and that's permanent. I paused. It means that I'm not going to sit at a table and pretend that the woman across from me didn't call me an old man from 15 feet away on a Sunday morning. I'm 72 years old, Aaron. I'm past pretending. He was quiet for a long time, long enough that I heard him breathe twice. I'm sorry, Dad, he said finally. I'm really sorry that happened. I know you are, I said. I can hear it. I'll talk to her. That's between you and her. I just needed you to know where I am. We talked for another 10 minutes about nothing consequential. His work, a project he was dealing with, the cobbler again, the conversation of a father and son who love each other and are navigating something carefully. When we hung up, I sat at the kitchen table for a while. He knew, I thought. He's known for a while. That's the weight I heard in his voice. Not surprise, not shock. Just the specific sadness of a man who has been hoping the two people he loves most would figure out a way to coexist, and is beginning to understand that the coexistence has been one-sided. You've made it this far, do us one quick favor. Subscribe. A lot of people listen without ever doing it, and it costs nothing but means everything. Thank you, genuinely. Now let's finish Kevin's story. Ralph came over Monday evening. I hadn't called him. He just appeared at the door at 6 with a rotisserie chicken from the grocery store, and the energy of a man who has decided that his friend needs company and food and is not going to ask permission. We ate at the kitchen table. I told him about the 3 calls. He listened with the specific quality of a man who has been your friend for 40 years and is reading everything between the words as well as the words themselves. You called Donna Fisk, he said. Wednesday. The annual gifting to Aaron. Still going. That's not about Aaron. I picked up the water glass, but the beneficiary designations needed a review. Some things I hadn't looked at since Margaret died. Ralph looked at me. Kevin, how much does Brianna know about your financial situation? I thought about that. About the specific quality of Brianna's management of my presence. About the phrase build their own family identity. About 2 years of something that had been operating underneath Sunday lunches and holiday dinners. She knows I have a pension, I said. She probably knows about the house. She may have assumptions about the investment accounts based on whatever Aaron has mentioned. And the actual picture? I looked at my oldest friend across Margaret's kitchen table. The actual picture is more organized than she's probably assuming, I said. And it's about to be more organized still. Ralph was quiet for a moment. Then he picked up his fork. You know what I always liked about you, he said. Tell me. You were always the most dangerous man in the building, because you were always the calmest man in the building. He pointed the fork at me. 31 years of teenagers thought you were easy because you never yelled. They were wrong every single time. I smiled. The first real smile since the front path. Eat your chicken, Ralph, I said. I didn't know it yet. Didn't know that Aaron was going to call me Wednesday evening after my meeting with Donna, or that Brianna was going to make a second mistake that was considerably more visible than the first, or that the specific shape of what I was building was going to become clear to everyone in a way that had nothing to do with drama and everything to do with documentation. Monday was over. Wednesday was coming, and I had a very organized yellow legal pad. There is a particular freedom in deciding that you're done managing other people's comfort at the expense of your own dignity. It doesn't arrive loudly. It doesn't come with a declaration or a confrontation or a dramatic scene on anyone's front porch. It arrives the way most real things arrive, quietly, with clarity, and with the specific relief of a decision that is simply correct. Wednesday, October 15th, 10 a.m. Donna Fisk's office is in a building off Meridian Street in the Country Club Plaza area of Indianapolis. The kind of office that is organized and unhurried and smells like good coffee and the accumulated paper of someone who handles things carefully. She had my file on the desk when I came in. She'd pulled everything, the investment accounts, the estate documents, the annual gifting records, the beneficiary designations that I hadn't reviewed since I'd updated them after Margaret died. Walk me through what you're thinking, she said. I walked her through it. The beneficiary designations on the 3 investment accounts, I wanted Cheryl added as co-primary beneficiary alongside Aaron, which she already should have been and hadn't been updated to reflect correctly. The annual gifting arrangement, I wanted it continued for Aaron personally, documented as a gift to Aaron specifically rather than to the household, with language that reflected that clearly. The standing authorization on Aaron's joint account, a remnant from the year Margaret was in the hospital when I'd needed access for medical billing, I wanted it removed from my end formally. Donna listened, made notes, read through the relevant documents. Then she looked up. Kevin, the account access removal. That's your choice. And it's straightforward. But I want to make sure you understand what you're doing and why. I'm reorganizing to reflect reality, I said. The reality is that my financial involvement in Erin's household should be clean, documented, and personal, rather than structural. I don't want anything that can be interpreted as involvement in their joint finances. Because I've had a conversation with my son this week about some things that needed to be said, and I want the documentation to match the conversation. I looked at Donna. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm organizing things correctly. She nodded slowly. The gifting language, Erin specifically, not the household. Erin specifically. That's a meaningful distinction. Yes, I said. It is. Donna wrote. We went through every document. It took 2 hours, and when we were done, the picture was clean. The way a well-maintained house is clean, not because anything dramatic had changed, but because everything that needed to be current was current. I left her office at 12:15, feeling the specific satisfaction of a man whose paperwork reflects his actual intentions. Brianna called me on Wednesday evening. I want to be accurate about this, because it is the part of the story where the second mistake happened, and I want to be fair to the sequence. My phone rang at 6:47 p.m. Brianna's name on the screen. I looked at it for a moment, answered. Kevin. Her voice had the quality of someone who has prepared a speech and is now delivering it. I know Erin talked to you Monday, and I wanted to reach out myself. Clear the air. All right, I said. I think there was some miscommunication Sunday. Things got taken out of context, and I'm sorry if anything came across the wrong way. The non-apology apology. The one that expresses regret for your perception rather than for the action. Brianna, I said carefully. I appreciate you calling. I just want us to have a good relationship. I heard you from the path, I said. Clearly. The full conversation, including the specific words. I kept my voice even. An apology for how something came across is different from an apology for what was said. I'm not trying to be difficult about it. I'm just being accurate. Silence. Kevin. I'm not looking for a confrontation. I've made some adjustments this week that reflect where I think things actually are. I love Erin, and that doesn't change. But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to pretend the path conversation didn't happen, and I'm not going to manage my behavior around the comfort level of someone who called me an old man outside her own front door. The specific silence of a woman whose prepared speech has not produced the result she expected. What adjustments? She asked, quietly. A different tone. Nothing that concerns you directly, I said. Housekeeping. Kevin. Brianna. I want you and Erin to have a good life together. I genuinely mean that. What I'm doing isn't about undermining that. It's about being honest about where I fit in it. I paused. I'll let you go. Give Erin my regards. I hung up. Sat in the kitchen. That, I thought, is what the long game sounds like. Erin called Thursday morning. Dad, Brianna told me she called you. She did. How did it go? Honestly, I said. A pause. She didn't sleep well. I'm sorry to hear that. Dad. His voice had the complex quality it had carried since Monday. The mix of son and husband and man trying to hold two things that aren't fitting together cleanly. Can I ask you something directly? Always. The adjustments you mentioned. Are you changing things financially because Brianna is worried that... Erin. I said it the way I used to say it when he was 16 and about to say something he needed to slow down on. Your finances are your finances. My finances are mine. I've made sure the documents reflect that distinction cleanly. I paused. The annual gift I've been giving you continues. That's because I love you, and it's always been personal. Everything else is organized the way it should have been organized to begin with. Okay. He was quiet. Okay, Dad. Erin. I'm not at war with your wife. I'm not trying to create a problem in your marriage. I'm an old man. Dad. I'm 72 years old, and I spent 31 years in education, and I'm not interested in drama at this stage of my life. I looked at the plant in the window. What I'm interested in is being treated with the basic dignity that I have always shown everyone in my life. That's all I've ever asked. That's all I'm asking now. A long silence. I know, Dad, Aaron said. I know. How are you? I asked. Genuinely. He exhaled. I'm figuring some things out. That's honest. I appreciate honest. I get that from you. You get it from your mother, I said. I just tried to keep up. He laughed. The real one. Unguarded. The 7-year-old one. We talked for 20 more minutes about his work and Cheryl, and whether I was going to make the cobbler again at Thanksgiving. I told him yes if he wanted it there. He was welcome to come get it. He said he'd be there. When we hung up, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time. Not sad, not triumphant, just present. Ralph came for dinner on Saturday. I made the pot roast Margaret had taught me, the one that takes 4 hours and is worth every minute of it. We ate at the kitchen table and talked about the week. She called you, Ralph said. Wednesday. How'd she take the honest version? She didn't sleep well, apparently. Ralph looked at his plate, then at me. Kevin, do you think Aaron's going to be okay? About Aaron's voice, on Monday, on Thursday, about the man he is, the quality of his honesty when he lets himself be honest, the specific way he carries that Margaret would have named and addressed in the way she always addressed things. Directly, with love, without drama. Aaron is going to have to make some decisions about what kind of marriage he wants, I said. That's his work. I can't do it for him. I picked up the glass. What I can do is be here when he needs me to be. Clearly, honestly, without drama. And Brianna? Brianna is going to learn that a retired principal doesn't yell, doesn't argue, and doesn't make scenes. I set the glass down. He just adjusts. And the adjustments last. Ralph looked at me with 40 years of friendship in his face. Margaret would have handled it the same way, he said. Margaret would have handled it faster and better, I said. But I got there eventually. You did, he said. The Thanksgiving cobbler happened. Aaron came to the house on North Illinois Street, alone, which told me something about where things stood without requiring either of us to say it. We spent 4 hours at the kitchen table eating and talking and watching the game. He helped me with the dishes after. Side by side at the sink, the way we used to be when he was growing up, the particular comfortable rhythm of people who know each other's pace. Dad, he said at one point, not looking up from the dish he was drying, I'm working on some things. I know, I said. I'm sorry it took. I'm sorry it got to where it got before Aaron. I turned to look at him. My son, 44 years old. The boy who learned to drive in the Broad Ripple parking lot, and the man who stood at his mother's graveside and held my arm. You don't owe me an apology for something you didn't do. You owe yourself some honesty about what you want your life to look like. That's different. He looked at the dish for a moment. Yeah, he said. Yeah, that's right. We finished the dishes. The Indianapolis November evening settled over Meridian Kessler and the house on North Illinois Street. The plant in the window was doing what it always does, living quietly in the spot Margaret put it. 72 years, I thought. And the most clarifying moment of the last several was standing on a front path in Fishers with a container of peach cobbler, hearing something I was never supposed to hear and deciding, right there, between the path and the door, that dignity is a choice you make before the other person can take it from you. Margaret knew that. I learned it. And on a Monday morning in October, I sat at a kitchen table with a yellow legal pad and a cup of coffee, and I reorganized everything that needed reorganizing. Quietly. Permanently. Without drama. Some lessons take 72 years to fully apply, but when they land completely. These are real stories submitted by our community. We use AI narration to protect the anonymity and privacy of the people who share their experience. The names and some identifying details have been changed at the request of those involved. If you have a story you'd like to share, reach out through the link in the description. If you liked this story, join our community by hitting that like button and subscribing for more real, raw, and family-centered stories.